Hello guys, welcome to the video. My name is Stephen McCoy and today we're talking about building PCs. Now, this video was supposed to be me showing you and taking you through the process of building my PC. If you haven't seen part 1 of this series where I go through my parts, go back now and watch it. You can find it on my channel and linked in below, and we shall wait. Okay, that should do you. So, like I said at the beginning there, this whole process of me doing this series was to show you the parts and then video myself building the PC. I sat down to do the building and I realized after about 5 minutes that that wasn't going to happen. Building the PC for me was very stressful. I was worried about breaking parts, not putting parts in the right place, things like that there. So unfortunately I have not been able to film myself building the PC. Now the point of me doing this series, as I say, was for people like me, people who want to get into PC gaming, people who want to get into building PCs but have never done it before and don't know where to start. My experience from doing this was, or is, that it is very stressful. You know, you watch these guys on YouTube all the time building these PCs and they make it look so easy. Everything just goes in straight, everything goes in nice and neat, and there's no issues. I found it to be very difficult, but what I want to do is I still want to make this video and I will kind of talk you through my process, and I've got some stills that I can show you on top of it. But yeah, so if you're a first time builder, this is not easy. Now, with the introduction out of the way, unfortunately you're going to have to listen to me talking about it rather than me actually showing you. So step 1 is get the equipment that you need. So screwdrivers, the anti-static mat or wristband, and any other wee bits and bobs. So all your cables, all your wires will all be included in your parts. So just make sure you've got everything laid out nice and neat on your workspace. Okay, step 1 is your motherboard and your CPU. So I am going to be consulting my notes in case you're wondering what I'm doing. So remove your motherboard from its packaging, keep all of your cables and your wee book and everything separate and lay it down flat. Next you want to grab your CPU, remove the CPU and its cooler from the packaging. Be very careful not to touch the bottom of the stock cooler. This may seem like common sense to a lot of people, but you'll find if you're a first time builder, no one ever tells you this. Do not touch the bottom of it because that's where the thermal paste is. Okay, so what you want to do then is lift up the little arm on your motherboard, slot your CPU in using the little tiny arrow you will see on the top of it, match it to the little tiny arrow on the motherboard. Now this is where I started to panic because you have to put the arm down, but I really felt like I was forcing the arm. You see all these people on YouTube doing it and they just click it and then you go, but I really felt like I was forcing it, and I at one point was worried that I was going to break the bloody thing. So once you have that in, use your screwdriver to remove the 2 little plates either side where your fan will go. Once you have that off, you need to line the fan up which best suited to where the cable from it will go to the fan header on your motherboard. Okay, once you have that all done, then you screw them into your motherboard in a kind of cross motion, so left to this corner and then to this corner to this corner. Don't tighten them until they're all in, and then you can tighten the fan down and plug your CPU fan into the CPU fan header on the motherboard. Okay guys, step number 3 is your RAM. Remove your RAM from its packaging and you can consult your motherboard's book to find out what slot you're putting your RAM into if you have more than 2 slots. For me it was slots 2 and 4. So what you want to do is flick your little lock, your chip lock open, and push the RAM in, and once you push it down you'll hear click into place. Again, at this point for me, I was convinced I was going to break the bloody thing because you almost feel like you're forcing the RAM down. I think it is just a wee bit tougher than what people make out when they make these videos. Push it into place and it will click on both sides to make sure that it's all the way in, and then the little clip lock will flick back round, and that's your RAM in place. Okay guys, the next step is putting your motherboard into your case. So what you want to do here is prepare your case, get all your cables ready for cable management, etc. First of all, what you'll want to do then is get your IO shield in place. This is another part I find very tough. I don't think YouTubers make it very clear how difficult it is to put an IO shield in. I would almost recommend buying a motherboard that has this IO shield already on for the sheer convenience of this. This was an absolute headache trying to get this on. Once you've got that on, you need to line up your motherboard, and you will have certain little screws that will screw in and match up on the motherboard. Screw them in. Again, you kind of just do it so that it loosens, or so it tightens them all in. Once your motherboard is in, then you can start connecting cables. So at that point I connected the power button, the light for the SSD and stuff. I can nearly remember my words. And you will find those little connectors all at the bottom end of your motherboards. They're little tiny pins that connect to your front panel. And I think that is it for your motherboard. Yep, so you're good to go at that point. So by this point you should have your motherboard in the system, some of your cabling done, and your IO shield on, your RAM in place, and your CPU in place, and that leads us on to the next step. Okay guys, next up we're going to look at the power supply. So remove your power supply from its box with all its cables. At this point you'll need to work out exactly which cables you need. So I needed the cables, the power cables for the actual device, the SSD connection cables, the GPU connection cables, and the CPU connection cables. And what you want to do at this point is get all your cables connected. So the mistake I made here was screwing on the power supply and then having to remove it to connect the cables. So what you want to do is make sure your cables are connected first. At this point as well, when you're installing your CPU, there are one of two ways you can put it. You can put the fan facing down or the fan facing up. I put the fan facing down just from watching different videos and stuff, and it was kind of like to do with the airflow coming out of the case. So at that point then, once your cables are connected, you can begin to do your cable management. At this point, ensuring that your cables are tied together and that they're not flopping around all over the place. And that's pretty much it for your power supply. Okay guys, next up is your SSD. This one's fairly straightforward. So you take your SSD and you connect it to, you'll have two connectors from your power supply, which will go into the top of the SSD. There's a little one and there's a bigger one. And then you then connect your SSD onto the slot on your motherboard using the SATA cable. So this one's quite straightforward and relatively easy to do. Okay guys, next up we're going to do our GPU. So remove your GPU from your box. Make sure you remove any of the plastic coverings that are on the GPU. Some of the GPUs come with little like plastic film and stuff across it. You need to make sure you have all of that off. At this point you want to line up your graphics card with the case. So you'll need to remove some of the back panel to get this in. I had to remove two slots from my back panel before putting it in, and at this point then the GPU again has a little clip flick that you just flick off and you press it in and it will clip itself in. Then once it's in, you screw it into your case that holds it all in place, and at this point then you would connect it up using the power cables that you've kept over from your power supply. And that is pretty much it. Okay guys, that is it. That is all your parts in. If you've any extra parts that you're adding, i.e. fans and etc., just put them where they belong in your case and connect them to the relevant spots around your motherboard. I had room for two more fans, one more fan. And they're quite straightforward to do as well. At this point then you want to complete your cable management. Use the cable ties that came with your GP or your motherboard just to tidy everything up, make it all nice and neat. And what you want to then do is put your case back together, and that's pretty much it. Okay guys, what you want to do next then is, once everything's back together and you've screwed everything in fact you probably do this before you do all this, but this is the way I did it anyway. So what you want to do is switch the thing on, make sure everything's up and running and all is good. So for me, when I switched it on, power was coming through, fans were running, GPU was running, CPU was running, the whole lot. Blank screen. So I searched and searched and searched and searched, and could I find an answer for this? Obviously I did in the end. But what I found was a Reddit post where the guy was like, take the power cord out, hold the reset or the power button in for 30 seconds to a minute, plug your power cable back in, and away you go. That worked for me. That got everything up and running. So at this point then you can install your Windows and you can make changes to your system in the boot menu. You can do all of that sort of thing at this point. So what I did was get my RAM up and running correctly, and installed all my programs and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, this takes a wee bit of time as well, but that's pretty much you. Again guys, I really apologize that this is not the video that I promised. I hope one day that if I can take my old PC apart, I can show you that way, or if I'm blessed enough to be able to build another system, I will definitely do it video wise next time. I really hope this has been helpful for you across the two videos. Please hit me up in the comments and let me know. If you haven't done so, please like the video, subscribe to the channel for more content. I'm also now streaming using my new PC build. So streaming on a 2-week rota of week 1 is Tuesday nights and potentially Wednesday nights maybe, and Saturday nights. Week 2 is Friday nights and Saturday nights. And at the minute we are streaming Football Manager and Metal Gear Solid. So any feedback that you have for me, please hit me up in the comments and let me know. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.